again guys, and welcome to my new video. Please excuse me while I just speed through this background really quickly. I've made a whole video on how I do these dark backgrounds, and I'll leave a little link in the corner for that. And I don't want to bore you with 3 hours of me colouring in with a black pencil. This piece was inspired by a lonely single rose left over from a Valentine's Day stall at my work. It was all dressed up in fancy packaging with all the cellophane and ribbons, but the petals were ever so slightly beaten up and a little black around the edges, so no one had picked it up as a gift for anyone, and I kind of found that a little bit sad and I couldn't walk past. So I picked it up for the bargain price of $1 and decided to take it home and make something pretty with it. Roses are a favourite subject of mine, and I've drawn a lot of them over the years. I've always found them to be a really fun subject because depending on your medium, you can make them as complicated or as simple as you like. They can seem really difficult at first with all those petals, but after drawing them many times, you get to know the patterns in which the petals lay, and you'll start to notice that one rose is generally very similar to another. I've always found the trickiest bit is that real centre where everything's really clustered up and it can get a little bit confusing. I find it easiest to draw the outside cup shape and then develop the larger petals first, and then I work my way towards the centre where I only concentrate on the very simplest shapes. I don't try to get too caught up in the tiny details of that centre. The hardest part of colouring in this rose was actually trying to keep track of all the different red pencils I had in my hand. I had at least 5 different shades of red in my left hand at all times as I went doing this, and the barrels of those pencils all look fairly similar, so I had to actually take the time to carefully read the name of each pencil before I put it down to the paper. This meant it actually took me a really long time to complete this rose. The first 3 petals took me an hour alone, and that's a really long time for me. After I completed the rose, I moved on to the glass in which it was standing, and oh boy, I really underestimated how tricky that was going to be. My by far inferior photography skills meant that the glass was a little bit out of focus, and I kind of had to guess at which elements would be the most important to include. Now, I've learned that it's that strong contrast between lights and darks which provides the illusion of a shiny surface, so I knew I had to get some really strong contrast in the glass edges itself. But for the actual contents of the glass, well, that was a little bit trickier. I sort of thought on it a little while, and I chose to really emphasize the candlelight reflecting in the glass and allow the bright warm colors of that to sort of steal the show, which meant that I didn't really have to chase every tiny element of the reflections in that glass. In the end, I was actually really glad that I chose to do that. I think if I'd spent the time and really tried to chase some perfect reflections in that glass, I probably would have lost that really warm, sort of inviting, glowing effect that it has. So I think this might be a case of, less is more. I approached the candlelight in much the same way. Instead of trying to draw a perfect flame, I just wanted to get the brightness and the glow in there. So I just sort of added some warm colours around the outside and coloured them in with straight white prismacolor pencil. The petals in the foreground were coloured with the same colours that I used for the rose above, except I used a pinker pencil where some of the light from the candles was shining through from behind. In the spirit of waste not want not, I did take a few more photos of this particular rose in a few other still life arrangements, so I'm sure I'll enjoy drawing it again, but not for a while. Those petals took a little bit too long for my taste. But I am really proud of how this turned out. It is probably one of my favourite pieces so far. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please leave a like or a comment. I'd really love to hear what you think, and if you'd like to see more of my art, why not hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, guys.